bitter criticism. Today it was the protest here ended up here. It was not so big, but I guess students win. Who knows what's going to? This was just the first. If nothing changed, the protest will increase. But by now, let's read Russia Today. Let's read Pepe Escobar's Telegram. Only 22 new updates. I'll have to assume, I'll have to recognize it's been a long time since I haven't watched this Pepe Escobar Cafe show. Because I don't speak Portuguese anymore. No, I don't know why. Because geopolitics. I'm kind of tired of geopolitics. That's the truth. I mean, it's always the same. Like China is the forever future. Russia too. It's the forever future. Great. How to say great potence? Not potence. I'm even forgetting English, but I'm going to read an article. So World War III is not happening. Palestinians got exterminated. So it's very dire, isn't it? So our life under capitalism is not that great. There's no solution. So I'm more likely to studying my things, which is humanities. I'm studying anthropology, design, and so on. So I'm not really keen. I'm not really interested in Roger Waters. I'm sorry, Pepe. It's not personal. It's just I don't know. Let's read something else. Three hours. No leaks on an American ultimatum yet. Circus Ringmaster will vociferate later today. This is today. This very long. Yesterday. And there's an interesting, a more interesting article from Laura Laura Russia, I guess. So Laura posted something on Laura Ru about Azerbaijan. When we look at Azerbaijan, it's impossible not to notice the elephant in the room. The UK is the largest investor in Azerbaijan's economy, followed by Turkey and Hungary. Azerbaijan is home for Alabai dog, I think. Alabai. More than 450 UK companies operate in Azerbaijan. In the last 33 years, BP, British Petroleum, together with its co-ventures, has invested more than $87 billion in oil and gas exploration and developments and transportation projects in Azerbaijan. In addition to oil and gas, UK companies are active in areas such as construction management and design, waste management, retail, and education. Almost immediately after Azerbaijan recaptured parts of territories of Nagorno-Karabakh, Baku announced ambitious reconstruction plans for these territories. British planning and architecture firm Chapman Taylor secured a $2.4 million contract from Azerbaijan to develop a new master plan for the city of Shusha in Armenian. Shusha now the pop icon in Brazil, not that Shusha. In tandem with Pasha Holding, owned by the Aliyev family, Chapman Taylor played an active role in deciding the fate of various structures within Shusha by marking buildings and homes for demolition. It contributed to the systematic erasure of Armenian heritage. Chapman Taylor also won a tender to prepare a draft master plan for Jebrail, now a ghost town after being destroyed during Azerbaijan's recent war with Armenia. British Petroleum and the Azerbaijani government plan to build a 240 megawatts Shafak solar plant near Jabrail, a stone's throw away from the Iranian border. Areas razed by war are like, quote, a blank white paper, said Okan Husseinov, a spokesman for SOCAR, the state oil company of Azerbaijan. Quote, we can write whatever we want to put a politically correct spin on the deconstruction. Baku announced that the area will be developed as a carbon-neutral green energy zone. The push for quote-unquote smart cities in territories now controlled by Azerbaijan and close to the Iranian border has alarmed Tehran. The intelligence and military applications of a web of sensors and surveillance cameras that enables data sharing and real-time analytics among physical objects are well known. With the help of AI, multiple data sources can be integrated into a single point of view and used to, quote, accelerate the closing of complex kill chains, end quote. As Anduril, the defense startup backed by Palantir's Peter Thiel boasts on its website. British Petroleum, Azerbaijan's larger investor, plays a role that extends far beyond the economy. The energy giant is deeply involved in the country's politics and society, both through its outreach organizations and initiatives and collaboration with the local British Council, universities and various Azerbaijani ministries, including the Ministry of Education. British Petroleum has always been contiguous with Britain's MI6 and Ministry of Defense. Not only are they working closely and at the highest level, the revolving door between British Petroleum and British military and intelligence apparatus never stops turning. Senior officials who became advisors to British Petroleum include former MI6 chief Sir John Sawers, who joined the corporation as a non-executive director. Its former head of counter-terrorism, Sir Mark Allen, who joined British Petroleum after leaving government service, General Nick Houghton, the former chief of the defense staff, and Lord George Robertson, the former Secretary of State for Defense and NATO Secretary General, also became advisors to British Petroleum. There's a subtract. I don't know what's that. Subtract. Ignorant. Laura Ruggeri, July 28, talking about oil. I guess it's interesting, but in the grand chessboard, Zbigniew, strange language, this Zbigniew Brzezinski, a major influence on U.S. foreign policy, referred to Azerbaijan as, quote, the vitally important, quote unquote, cork in the bottle containing the riches of the Caspian Sea basin and Central Asia, end quote. His metaphor, laden with imperialist undertones, vividly captures Azerbaijan's strategic value as a gateway to vast energy and mineral resources. At the time of the book's publication in 1997, Azerbaijan's potential as a major gas and oil producer was already well known. The Baku oil boom started in the 1870s, when the country was part of the Tsarist Empire. Its importance as an energy corridor and critical node in global trade emerged later, but it was already clear that the West will seek to leverage Azerbaijan's position not only to gain an edge in energy and trade, but also to extend its reach in the region in an attempt to undermine Russian security and interests. During the Cold War, the Caucasus was largely off-limit to Western shenanigans, but following the Soviet Union's dissolution in 1991, this region re-emerged as a contested space. The spike in the number of reports published by US, UK, EU think tanks after the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh war, along with other indicators, suggests a struggle in attention to the South Caucasus and Central Asia. These studies highlight areas of opportunity and recommend to engage the region in a more systematic and coordinated manner in order to exploit its vast resources and reduce the West's dependency on China for critical mineral and rare earths resources, which they see as a strategic Achilles heel. Oh, don't tell me about heel. I lost my. I'm recovering my feet. A typical example is Eric Rudenschild's January 2025 report, A Trans-Caspian Trajectory, a new U.S. strategy for Central Asia and the Caucasus, which was already being endorsed in Washington circles as a sort of roadmap. Rudenschild, a former National Security Council Director for Central Asia and USA Director for the same area, urges the Trump administration to increase funding and deepen engagement in the South Caucasus and Central Asia, particularly through the Middle Corridor, in order to counter Russia and China. He also argues in favor of moving Central Asia responsibilities from the Asia Bureau to the Europe and Eurasia (ENA) Bureau and from CENTCOM to EUCOM to better reflect the American vision for Eurasia, a delusion that boils down to EU, NATO in Russia and China out. End quote. Praising his friend's report, Daniel Rande, another USA old-timer who advocated for the merger of USA with the Department of State long before it actually happened, said that the Caspian region and Central Asia, quote, is going to get a lot more tensions in the next 5 years, end quote. Coming from him, it sounds more like a plan that the asset assessment of an analysis of an analyst. Rund also sits on the board for the Ukraine-Moldova American Enterprise Fund, USA creation, which provides direct investment loans, coaching and technical assistance to local SME and startups. He is eager to replicate this scheme in Central Asian countries where In the battle for global tech supremacy between China and the US, the race for critical minerals now rivals the race for oil fields and for trade routes, adding a new dimension and new actors to the old great game. Runde remarked, quote, "There is going to be a lot of interest in minerals, and we need a buyer's club for metals," end quote. He then emphasized Azerbaijan's role as a key transit point in the Middle East corridor, Trans-Caspian international trade route for their transport as it bypasses Iran and Russia. Quote, "My deepest thought from visiting Central Asia this summer is that if we are going to go big on the Middle Corridor, we are going to have to learn to love Azerbaijan in a much deeper, more profound way," end quote. Crucially, Rund suggested the EU should pull its weight to complement US efforts in the region, as it is currently doing in Ukraine. I assume the reader understands that, quote, "loving Azerbaijan more deeply means in the given geopolitical context." Runde's suggestion brings to mind, quote unquote, love bombing, a manipulation tactic notoriously used by cults to recruit new adepts. It involves flattery, validation, intense attention, feigned mutual interests, empty promises, offers of help, and pressure for very rapid commitment. Then a wage is driven between the recruit and anyone who might provide a reality check, as isolation from former friends and family is deemed crucial to exercise control on cult members and create a dependency relationship. The effects of the charm offensive launched towards the Azerbaijani leadership are hard to ignore. Baku ramped up anti-Russian rhetoric, closed down Russian cultural centers and news outlets, arrested and mistreated Russian journalists and citizens, and is using any pretext to escalate tensions with Moscow in order to please Washington. After the dissolution of the Soviet Union, Azerbaijan pursued a foreign policy of strategic equidistance aimed at maintaining beneficial relations with both Russia and the collective West, a balancing act that allowed Baku to maximize economic benefits. But as global and regional power competition for geopolitical, economic, and cultural dominance increased, all countries in the South Caucasus were targeted by Western influence operations, a key component of hybrid warfare. The goal of these operations was to eradicate both Soviet and Russian legacy from the region and open these countries' relations with Moscow. I guess it's the same with Kazakhstan, but sounds like I don't remember now, but it's like the Russia, China, and the U.S. influences are like I don't remember now. It's when a river encounters the sea. I don't remember. I forgot. Maybe there's good things, but it's also risky. You know, there's a lot of conflicts. The goal of these operations was to eradicate both Soviet and Russian legacy from the region and open these countries' relations with Moscow. Influence is exerted through multiple vectors: investments, trade, energy deals, market access, and financial aid, control over energy resources, pipelines and supply routes, defense agreements, arms sales, and security partnerships, diaspora communities, cultural soft power, education and religious ties, institutional reforms, integration into regional and international organizations, psyops, and media campaigns that increasingly rely on social media. But influence becomes hegemonic when it transitions from episodic to systematic and structural. That is when it captures the political, economic, and cultural ties of the country. This capture relies more on coaxing than on coercion. It hinges on education, integration, and assimilation, a form of soft incorporation that reproduces a Western worldview almost effortlessly. Elites internalize a foreign power's narrative without recognizing its ideological bias, adopt Western policies and their own because they are presented as solutions to local needs or as universal norms, not as foreign constructs. So-called elite knowledge networks are the transmission chain of Western narratives and worldview. They are embedded in university programs, philanthropic foundations, think tanks, cultural institutions, business and professional associations, etc. Definitely. So this is a plague. My opinion is not knowledge. It's just brainwash. Transitional knowledge networks socialize and validate leaders who will eventually be in a position to shape their country's policies and decision making in alignment with the foreign powers' interests. Hegemony, as distinct from mere influence, implies a pervasive structural dominance that often appears natural or inevitable to the host country's elites. The control of minds is reinforced by coordinated narratives that dominate both global media and social media networks. And it's way too big. This article is unbelievable big. This is like a book, absolutely big essay, so I'm going to leave it.